Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard, and thank you for watching today's Northeast Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. So you look at the last 24 hours of precipitation across the continental U.S., it's been rather dry across much of the eastern Corn Belt, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast region across this area, again, over the last 24 hours or so, with some precipitation falling over parts of eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and some extremely heavy rainfall falling across the Washington, D.C. area, where they had a flash flood emergency yesterday during the mid to late morning into the early afternoon hours, with some very slow-moving thunderstorms in this area. We've been watching the storm system, though, making its way from west to east, with thunderstorms developing across the central and northern plains during the last 24 hours. It's going to be the same case during the day Tuesday. Wednesday, that shifts into the mid-Mississippi Valley and into the Great Lakes. And then Thursday, that becomes an issue here in parts of the northwest or the northeast region. Here's the culprit. Looking at the jet stream here on Tuesday morning, this is our trough. This is the ridge over the central and eastern Corn Belt that's kept us very warm into the northeast region, parts of the northeast region anyway. But over the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to watch this trough begin to move off to the east, again becoming a problem, or at least a rainmaker here in the northeast region Thursday and Friday into the early part of the weekend. Looking at the radar here over the last 12 hours or so across the northern and central plains, we've seen the development of widespread showers and thunderstorms. Again, this continues to progress from the west to the east here Wednesday and then Thursday, making its way into parts of the northeast region. Look at the high-resolution NAM model. Instability on the left, so that's the fuel that drives the thunderstorms. And then on the right side, we'll look at the precipitation forecast. We'll go ahead, we'll step through time with this one here. We'll drag it back to Tuesday morning. Again, we'll be quiet for the next 48 hours or so across the northeast region. We're into Tuesday evening now, watching thunderstorms developing anywhere from the mid-Mississippi Valley into the Great Lakes and the northern plains. Now we're heading into the day on Wednesday, now early Wednesday morning, mid-afternoon Wednesday, and then Wednesday evening. Now seeing the greater thunderstorm risk across parts of the Great Lakes into the mid-Mississippi Valley and the central and southern plains. You can really see the front well defined. If we look off to the left, your instability values with strong instability ahead of that, a very hot and humid air mass. Plenty of fuel for these thunderstorms, so there is the chance for some severe weather across the Midwest on Wednesday. And then as we head into the day on Thursday, that risk shifts eastward. We'll go all the way now to 2 p.m. on Thursday. You can see the front now pushing into parts of Ohio, southward into Kentucky and Tennessee, and that's where we would then expect thunderstorms to begin developing Wednesday or Thursday afternoon and evening. And that includes parts of the eastern northeast region here, parts of New York State and Pennsylvania. Total accumulated forecast, you can watch this thing move from west to east as the loop plays out. We'll do it one more time. Again, quiet mostly for the next 48 hours across the northeast region, but as this begins to move in Thursday afternoon, evening, and then into the early parts of the weekend, we'll start to soak a bigger chunk of the northeast region. So the severe weather outlooks here for the next 3 days. Here is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And again, you can follow the storm system from west to east across the northern plains here with a greater severe weather risk on Tuesday. On Wednesday, that front now making its way through the Great Lakes into the mid-Mississippi Valley. And then Thursday, now it finally makes its way into the northeast region. Again, parts of New York and Pennsylvania are going to be the first ones to feel the effects there in the form of maybe some scattered strong storms Thursday afternoon and evening. So let's check in with the jet stream then as we head into the weekend and the early part of next week. Where are we headed? Well, here's the trough that brings the rain. Here's the ridge that's got us warm now. Let's go ahead and play this out for the next couple of days quickly over the next 48 hours or so, since we've covered that well in depth already. Here's the trough that's bringing the showers and storms into the area on Thursday. We're now on Thursday morning. Getting into Friday, this thing's making its way through the northeast region now on Friday, getting into the early parts of the weekend. On the back side of that, ridging, building back in, so we will flip back to a warmer pattern as we head into the early to middle part of next week. And then our big wild card right here, the remnants of this tropical system that are expected to develop down here in the Gulf of Mexico over the next 48 hours or so as we head into the mid-late parts of this week. Where does that end up tracking? Is it north into the Corn Belt and then perhaps eventually into the northeast region? Or does it follow a southerly track into the southern plains here? A huge spread among the forecast models. And I'm here to tell you that we don't have a great answer for you right now either. Eric and I have been kind of racking our brains a bit and joking just about how there's such little agreement on where this thing is headed as we head into the weekend and beyond that into early to middle next week when it would become a player in the Corn Belt in the Northeast region. So check back with the forecast on Thursday and Friday. I'm going to talk about it here, but I'm just letting you know it's out there as a possible wild card beneath the ridge, which should bring us overall hot and dry conditions. If this thing slips underneath into parts of the Corn Belt in the Northeast, someone's going to get a lot of rain out of that. So we'll look at the temperature anomalies just to play this out over the next week, kind of showing the west to east progression of the storm system and the heat building back in on the back side of that. So let's go ahead. We'll click through time. Again, temperature anomalies here. So the red color is going to be the warmer than average, green and blue showing cooler than average. Now we're warmer now across the Northeast region because the jet stream's doing something like this. We're underneath this ridge, and that is keeping us warm and humid, very July-like air mass out there. Now, as this front in the storm system makes its way through, we're seeing a temporary cool down and temporary drop in the humidity levels across the Midwest, and you can kind of follow that storm system again from west to east. By the time we get into the weekend now and early parts of next week, we're seeing a subtle trough make its way through the Northeast region, keeping the northern areas here warm. But as we head into the early to middle next week, there we go. We're really going to start to bring the heat and the humidity back into the Northeast region. Looking at the 12-hour or 24-hourly precipitation here, the forecast as we head into the rest of the week. Again, we'll go ahead and we'll just do this through time, but I've pretty well hammered the point home that it all comes from this storm system here Tuesday, then Wednesday. Now Thursday, making its way into the Northeast region, beginning to soak this area here Thursday and Friday before it moves out of here Saturday. A trailing front, perhaps bringing some light shower activity to the area during the later part of the day on Sunday. But as we talk about precipitation in the Northeast region, it's really going to be Thursday and Friday that see the bulk of that activity pushing through. As we look at the overall pattern here, the GFS ensemble forecast for the next 15 days, we're shifting the heavier axis of precipitation off to the north. The heaviest going to be found across the Canadian border here, the northern plains into parts of the upper Midwest. But certainly seeing some wetter than average conditions forecast here across the Northeast region as well. But a lot of that coming over the next 4 to 5 days here with this system Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then what follows on late in the day on Sunday. Now quickly just touching on the tropical system here. This is the map from the National Hurricane Center in Miami. This red shaded area, this is where they expect this system to begin to organize the area that they are watching. And again, we've got an area of high pressure off the Atlantic coast with steering flow like this. The European model latching onto this, thinking this is going to be the bigger player. That is why it has this system develop and kind of ride that flow up and into the Corn Belt as we head into the early part of next week. Now, also, there exists an area of high pressure off to the west across the western U.S. into the Central Plains with counterclockwise flow around that. The GFS kind of grabbing onto that as the more dominant feature, and that's why it takes this system and it suppresses it off to the south using this as a steering flow, again, keeping this away from the Corn Belt and certainly away from the Northeast region. So, again, from the European model taking this thing north, the GFS model taking this thing south, that is a huge spread. But again, this thing is 7 to 10 days out when we're talking about this thing making landfall or moving into coastal or inland areas. So certainly expected there be some spread, but no agreement to be found at this point. So check back Thursday and Friday. We'll talk about this a little bit more in depth if it does seem like it's going to have an impact here on the Northeast region. Again, you can see why this would be important as we just play the European model. This is, again, what it's saying right now as we head into the early to mid next week. You can follow this thing into the Corn Belt, and then it curves off to the east. And again, you can just kind of extrapolate out. This would potentially be a big player for parts of the Northeast region if this were to come to fruition. We'll just finish here with the high temperatures over the next 5 days. On Tuesday afternoon, a big spread here anywhere from the upper 70s to the upper 80s across the Northeast region. Warming up during the day on Wednesday. Cooler Thursday and Friday as that storm system makes its way through. Plenty of rain and cloud cover in the area, keeping most areas here in the mid to upper 70s. Warmer off to the south where we're not seeing so much precipitation. And then we start warming back up as we head into the weekend with the 80s and eventually some 90s filling back in. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video. And I'll have your next Northeast regional update for you midday on Friday. Have a wonderful day.